Hello and welcome to Geology, a channel dedicated to making concepts in biology simple, easy to understand and interesting. This video is part 2 of our series on human skeletal system, and in this video we are going to explore the skull. The skull is a marvel of protection and function, shaping our face and safeguarding the brain. We will now uncover the secret of its bones right from cranium to the facial structures and see how they work together to support everything from speech to survival. So let's dive in. In part 1 of the video, we have seen how the different bones of the human skeletal system are categorized. And there we have understood that skull is a part of the axial skeletal system. And then skull in itself has many bones which are grouped into 4 different groups. So let's study skull in details. Skull is the skeleton of the head and it is positioned at the upper end of the vertebral column. It consists of 29 bones which are grouped into 4 categories: cranial bones, facial bones, ear ossicles and hyoid bone. Each of these groups play a specific role in protecting vital structures, supporting the sensory functions, and enabling movement. Now, before diving into the details of each group, let us first explore the key functions of the skull. Skull serves for various vital functions in the body. Here are the main ones. Number 1, protection of the brain. So the bones of the skull form a hard, durable shell which encases the brain, guiding it against physical trauma or injury. Then the skull also shapes and supports the overall head structure. Its size and shape influences the facial appearance and the head proportions. Then the skull supports the facial bones, including the eyes, nose, and mouth, and provides the framework for attachment points for muscles which are responsible for expression, chewing, and speaking. Then the next function is to facilitate the sensory functions. That is, the skull contains cavities which houses the sense organs like the orbits for the eyes, the nasal cavity for the nose, the eustachian tubes for the ears. So these cavities which are present inside the skull ensures that the sensory organs are properly placed and protected. Then the upper and the lower jaw, that is the maxilla and mandible, which are part of the skull, provide the structure needed for teeth. Then the skull also houses and protects the oral cavity, nasal passages, and pharynx, which are critical for breathing, eating, speaking, etc. Then the skull contains various foramina. Foramina are the different openings. Now, through these openings, various blood vessels and nerves pass, and they supply to the blood to the brain, face, and the neck. These openings ensure that the communication between the brain and the other parts of the body happen properly. So, in a nutshell, the skull is a critical structure that not only protects the brain and supports the sensory organs, but also provides a framework for the facial features and essential body functions like eating, breathing, and communicating. Now let's see each part in detail, starting with the cranium or the brain box. So the cranium is also known as the brain box, and it is the part of the skull that encases and protects the brain. So it serves as a heart covering for the brain, providing essential protection from physical impacts and trauma. Now, cranium is composed of 8 bones. The frontal bone, which forms the forehead and the upper part of the eye sockets. Then there are 2 parietal bones, which form the sides and the roof of the skull. Then 2 temporal bones, which form the lower side of the skull and houses the ear structure. Then 1 occipital bone, which forms the back and base of the skull, protecting the brain stem. 1 sphenoid bone, which is located at the base of the skull, and helps to form the eye sockets and supports the brain. And then lastly, one ethmoid bone, which is located between the eyes and forms the part of the nasal cavity and the eye sockets. Now, the temporal bones have a projection known as the mastoid process, which is located just behind the ears. Now, this bony prominence serves as an attachment site for muscles that move the head and the neck, particularly the muscles involved in head rotation and tilting. Now, these cranial bones are joined by immovable joints which are known as sutures. Sutures tightly connect the bones of the skull, and one key function of these sutures is to dissipate the shock of a blow to the brain, acting just like the gaps in the bridge. So, just as the expansion joints in a bridge absorb slight shifts and movements caused by traffic, the sutures in the brain, or the not the brain, the skull, helps to absorb the shocks to the skull, reducing the risk of injury to the brain. So, the natural design ensures that the cranium is both protective and flexible, providing a strong shield for the brain while allowing the skull to absorb certain forces without causing any harm. Though not a bone, but while studying skull, it is important to know about foramen magnum. Now, the foramen magnum is a large opening which is located at the base of the skull in the occipital bone. As its name suggests, in Latin it means giant hole. It serves as a crucial pathway for several vital structures that connect the brain to the rest of the body. Now, key functions of foramen magnum includes uh, passage of the spinal cord, that is, it is the opening through which the spinal cord connects to the brain stem, specifically the medulla oblongata, which is part of the brain stem. Exits the skull and enters the spinal cord through this foramen. So, in addition to the spinal cord, the foramen magnum also allows the vertebral arteries which supply blood to the brain, as well as spinal nerves and accessory nerve, that is cranial nerve 11, to pass through the skull and reach their respective destinations. The foramen magnum plays a very essential role in enabling communication between the brain and the rest of the body, and it allows the signals to travel from the brain down to the spinal cord and vice versa, facilitating movement, sensation, and vital functions. Now, the position of this foramen magnum also has a significance. So, it has a significant implication for the human posture and bipedalism. So, in humans, the foramen magnum is positioned more centrally at the base of the skull. So, this helps balance the head directly above the spine. And this position is a key anatomical feature of bipedalism, as it allows humans to walk upright on two legs with proper alignment of the head, spine, and body. So, in summary, the foramen magnum is an essential structure that not only allows vital passageway for the spinal cord, nerves, and the arteries, but also plays a crucial role in maintaining posture and enabling bipedal movement in the humans. Let's look at the next part, which is the ear ossicles. Now, the ear ossicles are three small bones which are found in each middle ear, playing a crucial role in the process of hearing. These bones are named for their shape and function. The first one, malleus, means hammer, is the first bone in the chain, and it is attached to the eardrum or the tympanic membrane. So, when sound waves cause the eardrum to vibrate, the malleus moves in response. The second is incus, which means anvil. It receives vibrations from malleus and transmits them to the next ossicle or the stapes. Stapes means stirrup. The third and the smallest bone, it connects to the oval window of the inner ear. These tapes transmits sound vibrations to the fluid-filled cochlea in the inner ear, where the sound is converted into nerve signals. Now, these three bones are connected in a chain-like structure, and they function together to efficiently transmit sound vibrations from the eardrum to the inner ear. So their role is to amplify and transfer the sound, ensuring that the sound waves are strong enough to travel through the fluid of the cochlea, where they can be processed by the brain. So in summary, the ear ossicles, that is malleus, incus and stapes, are essential for hearing, amplifying sound and transmitting vibrations from the eardrum to the inner ear for further processing. Very interesting are the facial bones. The facial bones form the structure of the face, providing support for the facial features and protecting vital sense organs. There are 14 facial bones in total, and they contribute to the overall appearance and function of the face. Here are the key bones. First, there are two zygomatic bones. These are the cheek bones, forming the prominent part of the cheeks and part of the eye sockets. Then there are two maxilla. These bones form the upper jaw, housing the upper teeth. They also contribute to the palate and the nasal cavity. Then there are two nasal bones. These are small bones which form the bridge of the nose, and they contribute to the overall structure of the nasal cavity. There is one mandible, which is the lower jaw bone, and it is the only movable facial bone. It allows for mastication, that is chewing, and plays an essential role in speech. We have two lacrimal bones which are located in the inner corner of the eyes and are involved in the tear duct system. And these are also the smallest bones of the face. Then there are two palatine bones. These form the back part of the hard palate and contribute to the nasal cavity and orbit. We have two inferior nasal conchae or the turbinated bones. These are located inside the nasal cavity, and they help in filtering, warming and humidifying the air that we breathe. We have one warmer, and this bone forms the part of the nasal septum, dividing the nasal cavity into two halves. So in summary, the facial bones provide structural support, and they help with facial expressions, and they play key role in eating, breathing and speaking. Now, while bones like mandible, maxilla and zygomatic bones are visible from the outer surface, some of the facial bones like the lacrimal, palatine, inferior nasal conchae and the vomer are internal, and they are not visible from outside. The last one is the hyoid bone, which is located in the neck just below the mandible or the lower jaw. So this serves as an anchor for the muscles of the tongue, throat and larynx or the voice box, playing an essential role in speech and swallowing. So the statement that I have mentioned here, that the hyoid bone is not articulated with the rest of the skeleton. So this means that the hyoid bone is not directly connected to the other bones by joints or articulations. So unlike most bones in the body which are linked together by joints, such as the bones in the arms or the legs, the hyoid bone is floating and does not form a joint with any other bone in the body. With this, we come to the end of this video, and this was part 2 in the series. So part 1 comprises of the human skeletal system, and the different bones and how are they classified and so on. Part 3 deals with the vertebral column of the axial skeletal system. Part 4 would be on sternum and ribs of the axial skeletal system. Part 5 and 6 cater to the appendicular skeleton with the girdles and the limbs respectively. So don't miss to watch the other parts of the video to get the series, to get an overall idea of the human skeletal system in details. So see you in the next video. Until then, take care. Do like, share and subscribe to the channel and mention your comments in the comment section, which will help me improvise and understand what would help you better.